Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 17th day of April 2023. I almost just said March. I don't know. Odd weekend. Some of my stuff's coming up though, and the 6-packs I planted. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that. The first thing that came up was the chamomile, so I need to add another pot of chamomile to the deck. So, but I planted flowers and I planted a few herbs, and not everything is up yet, but surprisingly a white sage plant is up, so that was kind of cool. One of the ways you're supposed to scarify white sage seeds is you're supposed to fire scarify them or scarify them. I don't know how to do that other than maybe grabbing a seed with some tweezers and passing it through a flame, maybe. I don't know. I have to look that one up, but I didn't do that. So I got one up anyway. We'll see today. Maybe there's more. Okay, come on. It's taking a while for all of the, there we go, for all the runes to fall through my fingers there. Well, we begin with Dagaz today. Dagaz is an interesting rune. It literally means the end of one period and the beginning of a new period. So it means new day or just day. And you can do rituals. You can draw this on the ground either with a stick or mentally draw it on the ground or what have you, and stand in the center and do a Dagaz ritual. It's always nice to use Dagaz during an equinox ritual as well. So, you know, the spring equinox and the fall equinox, it's nice to do it then, because it really, especially if you perform it at exactly the time of the equinox, you're standing there, you get started ahead of, a little, like, you know, 30 seconds ahead of time or however much time, whatever your ritual entails, you know, but you literally could do this, get ready, and then stand in the center and then, you know, experience that end of one phase, that balance of light time basically, and you're shifting into a whole new period. The following day, it's the light time is going to shift, right? And so but basically this means that all doors are open. It's all possibilities are possible. New beginnings. So let's see what the Geomancy elemental runes will end up being, what we'll get out of that when we throw those down. Remember, for those of you who haven't been here before, first off, welcome. And second, when I'm throwing these down, I'm putting them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. And as you can see with the air, you can see the element, the elemental glyph for air is on the single dot side. On the other side, you have 2 dots. So however they fall, and this one fell as a single dot. Basically what we have here is conjunctio. So you're going to have maybe some that have 2 dots upright and some with single dots, or maybe you'll have all dual or all single, you know, or like I say, a combination of the two. And then I went ahead and I did these so I don't have to try to hold all 4 of them up in my hand. This is what conjunctio looks like. And conjunctio is about joining and about union. So are we on the threshold of beginning a new partnership, a new understanding of what the collective consciousness is? Lot of, you know, I mean, given that the Geomancy rune represents the below side, I mean, I suppose we can't get too cosmic or too astral about it. But so let's just focus it a little more earthly here and say that there's a new day where maybe we're going to start a new partnership or come together and collaborative effort with somebody else or a bunch of someone else's, a group of people. Some new awareness maybe about what unity really means, unity and diversity and all of that. But let's take some cards here. We'll take 3. If we need more, we'll take it. I've already done some shuffling. I have a ritual that I do before I start. Sort of gets me in the mood here and gets me my head in the space of reading this stuff. And shuffling the cards is part of that. So that way I don't have to spend a whole lot of time when we're talking, shuffling the cards. Let's cut the deck and take for the first 3 cards. And again, if we need more, we'll take it. We have 2 from the minor arcana. Well, all 3 are from the minor arcana, but one's from the court. We have 3 different suits represented, therefore 3 different elements. We have cups, which is the water element. We have wands, which is fire, and then we have swords, which is air. Let's see. Overall, oh, this is an interesting pattern. I'll tell you the cards, and you'll see what I mean. We have the 2 of cups, the page of wands, and the 2 of swords. So we have 2s on the other side of the page. Cups again is emotions. Air or rather swords is the mental faculties, the intellectual part of the intellectual side of self. Justice, reason, balance, decisions, anything like that. Right now, of course, Mercury's in retrograde, so we may be experiencing, or is it retrograde yet? No, today's the 17th. Not till the 21st. I'm sorry. We're in the shadow, though. I work ahead a week on the stuff I publish on the blog over at Stepping Aside. And so I'm in that part where actually I'm beyond that. But here we have the 17th. And so, yeah, the 21st is what? Is that Friday? Well, let's not get that up here. Let's do this one up. Yeah, the 21st is Friday, and that's when Mercury retrograde begins. So, but we're still in the shadow phase of it. There's always a shadow before and a shadow after. So really, you're looking at 5 weeks of Mercury retrograde, even though it's technically 3. Things start maybe go wonky, miscommunications happen, before it starts sometimes, and sometimes you're still, dealing with that at the end of it. If that's what happens to you. It may not, it doesn't always. But right away with conjunctio, we're seeing that evidenced here in the 2 of cups. Here we have 2 people, a man and a woman. And you see the winged lion's head above and the caduceus below. That's all about healing. 2 is about healing and balance and reciprocity and love and all of that. And here with cups, that just reinforces that. These are expressions of that. So something's happened between you and a partner. And it's a new day with maybe you're letting go of one set of perceptions, and you're beginning anew with a new set of perceptions or a new understanding. 2 is also about understanding. And so we can look at Degas that way as well. So you can see both Degas and conjunctio in the card. But here we have the man actually taking a step toward the woman. And he's reaching out his right hand while holding a chalice in his left. She holds the chalice in her right. But they're reaching out with them in terms of like offering. So offering some kind of understanding, offering forgiveness maybe. You see the home in the background here, and you see the dual line of demarcation there, which this is now and this is the future maybe, or this is now and that was then. But again, the 2 of Cups is about healing the divide, maybe rejoining, reunifying with conjunctio, coming back together, creating a new understanding, a new compassion, just a new expression of love together. And maybe it was a situation where the masculine side of self, I mean, if this is just polarity, you could look at it that way, healing the polarity within, finding a better balance between the masculine and feminine presence within, or the projective and receptive presence within. You could look at it that way too. But given that we have, I mean, I suppose you could look at conjunctio as integration as well, integration within. And if that's what's really this is about for you, then great. Then you have you're on the threshold, you're on the verge, you're on the precipice of a different level of understanding about yourself. You could also look at it that way. But let's look at it just on its face, where there's been possibly some kind of disagreement or whatever, and now there's some healing that's taking place. And they're coming back together, a reunification, if you will. But here we have the Page of Wands. Now, anytime you have the page is very similar in energy to the Ace and the Fool, in that there's undeveloped potential with both. But pages are oftentimes considered students or news bearers. In this particular one, he's holding his staff out as if in offering, or to admire it or what have you. Wands is the fire element again, and so this page is very dynamic. He's in the Holy Land. You can tell that by the 3 pyramids. But he's about present moment awareness. He's about transformation. Again, he's a seeker. He's a student. So there's that kind of transformation. But with Wands, you're also oftentimes talking about new opportunities. So he's presenting new opportunities. So after you've done some healing, either within or between you and someone else, either way, you now have some new opportunities that you might be able to consider together. And then a decision has to be made. The Two of Swords is really about a decision and doing it dispassionately. And how do we know that? Because she's blindfolded. She's got her back to the water. Water can be emotions, so she's not being distracted by anything emotional. And again, we have another, let's see, I guess we kind of have one, but it's hard to see it. And it doesn't really count because it's just the sky. So I don't know that we necessarily have one in the Page of Wands, but we also have a line of demarcation here, just like we do here. So there's this sense of stepping away from the issue, stepping away from something or the influence maybe, and making these decisions, making the decision to heal here. And then now we've got to make some kind of decision about where we're going to go. What new opportunities. You see the maiden moon here, which again, you're standing literally, you know, in the center of, this would be the maiden moon, and, you know, progressing onward, right? And a lot of this I realize is energetic, but you can see the connection between all of it when you think about it that way. You can almost, if you allow this to be, I mean, you can almost see Degas partially there in the card. So whatever has happened in terms of healing with somebody else and coming back together in compassion and love and unity and all of that, now it's just now some new ideas are coming into play. Where do we go from here? What new opportunities? So maybe this is 2 forces joining that were at one time opposing forces, and now they've come together and they've healed the differences, and now there's new opportunities to think about, and some decisions need to be made. So if you aren't sure of whatever has happened here, excuse me, I need to drink some tea. Hopefully it's not so hot I can't. I was outside yesterday, though, cleaning up on the deck and finishing that project, and the wind was blowing, so no telling what pollen it blew my way, but I was a little stuffy last night. And now it's into my throat, so here we go. But again, we're looking at whatever decision we have to make in a dispassionate way. Letting go of the emotion and trying to come to some kind of reasoned understanding or reasoned decision about something. Now, we could have just as easily put this first and talked about it from the standpoint of there needs to be some kind of decision made in a dispassionate way, and that's made, and then you choose to heal. You could look at it that way. And from there, new opportunities come out. That'd be one very simple way of looking at it. I just kind of like the idea of having 2s on either side. I just like that feeling of, you know, I don't know, the sameness in a way, both 2s. It just seems like there's some balance here. And I just think that before we can truly finish this process, maybe, we need to be sure of the direction we're going. And again, maybe the problem here was there was just too much emotion involved. Maybe there was a lot of guilt involved or something like that. that then people had to decide, okay, we're going to let that go, and we're going to come back and try to come together again in reciprocity and balance and love and in healing. And maybe we just need to pull the page out of this entirely and set him at the end. And from there, you know, some dispassionate decisions need to be made. We need to leave the emotion out of it. Maybe that's the lesson from here, that we could look at it that way, where we need to, the decisions that we make need to be made reasonably, with an eye to understanding the whole picture, pulling from intuition. Maybe you could say that as well with this. But again, you know, when the arms are crossed, that's a symbol of balance, at least in my estimation. And holding each sword in each hand, you're talking about balanced reasoning, balanced thought, balanced perspective. And maybe that's how we need to just look at this. The decision needs to be made from a balanced perspective instead of one that's all emotional, because she's turned her back to that. So whatever the emotions that might have gotten out of control that required some healing here, you made the decision to heal, you know. Or again, I just keep thinking that the Two of Swords needs to be first. You've made that decision to put emotion aside and come together and heal that aspect of self. Or again, it could be the other way around. But I think that the page has got to come last. I think that after all that's done, and again, you know, maybe maybe you've decided the decision has to be a spiritual one, and you have a spiritual opportunity here that's coming your way, or to maybe engage with people on a more spiritual level than on the ego level. And so I think that, I don't think that there's any real way to, well, I mean, on the other hand, you know, Degas resembles the two, you know, visually, the Two of Swords. And so, and if you put conjunctio above the Two of Cups, then that reinforces that reunion. I mean, the Two of Cups can be about reunion and healing the divide between people. And then decisions need to be made. Where are you going with all of that? It's like you're on the precipice of something new or on the threshold of something new, but what is that? You know, and whatever the decision you make is got to be made in a way that lets go of the emotion, lets go of the guilt, lets go of anything because emotions get sticky and you get stuck there, and it's hard to let all that stuff go because you feel like maybe nothing really happened. There was no justice. There was no, you know, people just have to sort of agree to disagree or what have you, and not try to guilt other people into seeing their way, you know, or doing what it is they want to do. So once you get past all of that and you heal all of that, you make your decision about what you need to do, about where you're going to go now. Because again, this leaves you in a place of uncertainty, other than, you know, you've come together in conjunctio, in union, in unity, in harmony with someone else, but it leaves you on the precipice of someplace new. You don't know where the relationship's going to go yet, but here it would suggest that it's in a kind of a spiritual place. That the new opportunity for a better relationship, a better type of harmony, if you will, a higher level of harmony, a more soul level of harmony instead of ego. This, generally, ego's involved somewhere prior to coming together and healing. It's like, I'm sorry, you know, I got ahead of myself. Or maybe both people did. And then now a decision has to be made about where we're going with that. And again, it seems to be taking you into a spiritual place. So, you know, when you have Degas relating to something like that, where, you know, you're closing one chapter where you've agreed maybe not to guilt one another anymore, or to try to coerce people, you know, into doing what you want to do and having it get all emotional and everything else. And now you've decided to see things from a more dispassionate viewpoint. And then all of a sudden, you know, some greater understanding comes from all of that. And you embark on something together that's a little higher level than simply what the reactive ego takes you into. So that's kind of an interesting way to start the week. I mean, you know, last week we were about, let's see, what were we about last week? Let's see, on Monday it was about manifesting creative solutions, and then from there on Thursday, reasserting one's control. So, you know, it seems like we've been doing a lot of that transitioning from one type of experience into another for a while now, and maybe we're just starting the week out doing that. Here again, you know, those kinds of changes take time, especially if you've got little pockets in your life where you've got issues going on with other people. And these days, you know, well, the past few years, it's been hard. It's been hard on families, watching the division that's been created within families, and whether it was, you know, politically charged, or whether it was COVID related or whatever. Maybe, you know, you had some that refused to get the vaccine, some refused to wear masks, and you're like, well, no, you can't come in my house without a mask on. We're in the middle of a pandemic, you know, and it's like, it's that kind of, you know, separation and divide between perception. But it has managed to create a divide between friends and family and all kinds of situations. And so maybe this is signaling an opening to another way of seeing things. But at the same time, you know, you want to be certain not to compromise your health and safety to do that, right? So there's got to be some strategy to make that happen. The Two of Swords could have something to do with that type of strategy, deciding on how we're going to manifest all of this. How are we going to come back together realistically? And what kinds of rules are there going to be? What kinds of boundaries are going to set? You know, the Two of Swords could be talking about that, could be talking about boundaries and establishing them based on truth and honesty and fairness and a reasonableness. You know, there seemed to be such a lack of that was going on, where you have one side of the equation that can't understand why the other side of the equation wants to live. I mean, I don't understand why that took place, but it did, and it's still going on. So I don't know, you know. But I think whenever you see Degas, the whole feeling of, I've worked with this rune a lot, just in you know, rituals and spell work and whatnot, and in meditation. And I love the rune because to me, I really get into the flow of something ending and something else beginning. And being in the center of it all, being on the precipice of that, experiencing the release of something and the embracing of something else. It's a scary thing, right? And so, you know, with the swords, and both with swords and cups, there's risk involved. With cups, there's momentum. Sometimes things happen and they have their own momentum, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a place you really didn't intend to go necessarily, but the emotions got the better of you, and you either didn't react when you should have, or you reacted too much when you shouldn't have. You know how that works. And at some point then you've got to come back to some kind of realistic moment, and maybe the Two of Swords is that realistic moment where you turn your back to all of that and you just, you know, put the blindfold on, and you make your decision from just your own inner awareness, your own intuition, and from what you know that's rational, where you don't have anybody else trying to influence you. Water influences, so does swords, or rather so does air. Both influence people. And so balancing emotions with intellect, or emotions with reason, I mean, you've got those two cards here. And I think that I don't know, I just think that they go side by side. I know I like to put things, you know, that way, and that's the way I drew them. But I really think that in this case, the twos probably do belong together. If you look at them in the case of 22, you could look at them that way instead of adding them together to get 4, because it's a whole new structure, a whole new foundation, a whole new sense of grounding with a 4 energy. If you look at it, though, in the terms of 22, well, that's the master number for, it's the cosmic builder. It's profound manifestation. And so something profound here can happen if you want to look at it that way. And realistically, you know, when you're trying to heal something like that, and you do, that is pretty profound, because it pushes past all of the resistance that you've had to any kind of letting go of your own position. It doesn't mean you have to change your mind. It just means you drop resistance to the whole thing, and you realize that there's a greater force, a greater love force there that needs to be respected and embraced. And I think that also happens in both twos, even in the Two of Swords. I just think that this feeling, and again, you've got the lines of demarcation here and here. Did I do that right? I'm doing it backwards, so I don't know. But you have those. You have that feeling of getting away from the drama of it all, you know, getting away from, and here, getting away from the ocean of emotion, basically, and trying to come up with something different and developing a new perspective about it all, letting go of the stuff that kept you stuck, and moving forward in a more free fashion. But again, with boundaries. You know, sometimes some of this stuff happens because a lack of boundaries is happening. And here you're establishing that, I think. You're defining, what am I going to do and what am I not going to do, right? And then you're going to move forward on some kind of with some spirituality involved, where maybe instead of reacting so much, you try to see things from the higher perspective, and you understand maybe a little more about why somebody's acting out, or acting maybe not themselves, or maybe this is the self of them that you know, and maybe before they were less so, you know. So something's happened in their life, and maybe they're a little rigid, and they demand this or demand that, and everybody's like, oh, what do we do? Do we just cater to this person? Or, you know, it could be something like that. But eventually everybody's got to realize that they have their own input into whatever's going on in their lives, and into the experiences that they're having and sharing with others, that there's input coming in from all angles. And so I think with the Page of Wands, if the new day part of it is maybe becoming more of a seeker or a student, where you're trying to understand more the greater picture of things, given that you see the 3 pyramids here, that's from a spiritual perspective. So a little esoteric for a Monday, but I think it's a valuable reading. I think that it can really apply to just about any kind of argument you're having, or disagreement, or you know, if you've kind of are apart from someone because I can't deal with that person right now, you know, that kind of stuff. Eventually, you know, hopefully you figure it out and you resolve it. So that the friend or family member or coworker or whoever it is, neighbor, whatever, that you're able to at least have some kind of a reunification with them. You know, it may not be that you pal around with them anymore, but at the same time, you know, that door is open. And at this point, I think prior to this card, it was probably closed. And you know, and again, we could start with the Two of Swords and read it that way. You know, you're letting go of emotion, you're making a decision, and you make the choice to heal. And from there, a new opportunity for a better spiritual awareness about such things. We're not meant to be caught in the mud of the ego. We're not meant to be caught in the up in the reaction, because pretty soon that's all there is. And so the entire story never gets to be understood about what's really going on here. A lot of this stuff stems from fear that runs amok, basically. A lot of this stuff is fear-based. But at the same time, if we make the decision here to then heal, we make the decision here to heal, to look at it more dispassionately and say, you know what, we got to stop. Let's just let's just come back together and see where it goes. And again, you know, that's a spiritual perspective in and of itself. So you're not allowing the ego to govern your reactions. You're not allowing the ego to govern your emotions. You're not allowing the ego to govern your mind. You know, you realize, hey, you know what? I'm a soul. I can make different decisions than this. I can rise above all this stuff, and just love the person for being the person they are. You know, and they're in my life, and I love them. You know, that it could be something like that. So think about this and see if there's some little corners of your life where things are not right and you want them to be, but they aren't, and maybe you're the one that needs to initiate it. Once you get your ducks in a row and you understand, you know, what it is you really want, what it is you really need, and then reach out to the other person and say, can we just get together and have some tea or some coffee or, you know, whatever, or take a walk or something, or I'd like to come over and see your garden. You know, your flowers must be beautiful this time of year. I want to come see you, and, you know, whatever, you know, to be able to put aside the differences that were there before, and just leave the door open. If nothing else, just leave the door open, you know, for something new to happen. So anyway, that's it. I've run that one into the ground, so there you go. Anyway, the stuff's out over there on the blog at Stepping Aside. The web address is, I figured it out. I remember now where to put the colon. https:// www.imsteppingaside.com. IMSTEPPINGASIDE.com. If you want to find out, if you don't remember that, you can click on more below the video. It'll open up a box which says a bunch of stuff, has links and all kinds of stuff. But the very first link is the at the top of it is the website. Stepping Aside. And so that's my website. If you want to go over there and check that stuff out, that's great. Stuff also goes up over there on Substack. If you want to read my stuff over there, you can do that. You can go to Patreon and follow me there. Same stuff goes up over there, and also on Medium. So depending on what platform you like to read stuff on, you can either go to my website or you can go to these other places and see this stuff. And thank you in advance if you do. I appreciate that. I also hope you click subscribe here and come back. I do this on Mondays and Thursdays, so we'll do this again on Thursday and come back again then for another edition of As Above, So Below. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming by, and be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.